Good morning and welcome back to This Little Wonderful Life. We are going to have a day out together today. I am taking Lilia, who's in the background here, to Bath. She has an audition for a university, and while she's doing that, I'm going to go and jump on the park and ride into Bath city centre and treat myself to a bit of a wander around the bookshops. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to go to Mr. B's, Waterstones and Toppers. I think that's the names of them, but I will take you along and share all the information as I go. My name is Ali, by the way, if you're new around here. And I live not in this house. This is not my house. I wish it was my house, but it's not. This is my stepmother's house that she shared with my dad. My dad is no longer with us, but she's about an hour from Bath. So we stayed here last night, had a lovely meal. And now we've got an hour's drive up the motorway, the M4, to go and get to Bath, drop Lilia off and then see what the day brings. I've got a new book in my bag because I finished my quite short palate cleanser one last night, which I loved, but I'll do a bit of a reading update at the end of the vlog. And yeah, let's stop talking and start going. Right, so I'm in the car park. I have dropped Lilia off and I'm now going to go and find the park and ride, which is where you park and then you get a bus into the city centre, because I don't fancy taking my chances driving around Bath. So I think it's about a 5-minute drive to the park and ride and then a 10-minute ride on the bus. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm hungry, so I want to get into Bath and find somewhere to have a cup of tea and something to eat and a little wander around. So yeah, it was a beautiful drive. Oh my goodness, the surrounding area of Bath and this area is so pretty. It was proper rolling hills, rolling English countryside, and I don't have any setup in Dan's car to film as I'm driving, so you'll just have to imagine it. Right, let's go. I'll film the park and ride, but I don't think it's going to have the same effect. First stop, Costa for a croissant on the world's smallest plate and a chai tea latte, which are never quite hot enough, and using Apple Maps to plan my day and stop me getting hopelessly lost. This is Bath Abbey, isn't it gorgeous? And I'm just popping into this shop here to get a postcard for Lilia's scrapbook. Ah, the vlogger's dream to have perfectly timed background church bells. Toppings and Company is a family-run independent bookshop chain in the UK. I think this building is a former Quaker meeting house, but I'm not entirely sure where I read that, so don't take my word for it. I absolutely loved Toppings, loved it. I wish I'd taken some more footage of the actual shop itself, but I was just so excited by the displays and all the books out on the tables. I'm not going to put any music in the background because the noise of bookshops is better. Some scenes on my walk to the next shop, which is Mr. B's. Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights. Oh my goodness, a whole Terry Pratchett display, and look at these wonderful hard copy editions. Love the illustrations on these. Then to Waterstones. Oh, this Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition of Jane Eyre, one of my favourite books of all time. Look at these cover illustrations. Just perfect. I then did my usual trick of accidentally leaving the camera rolling and taking 5 minutes of sideways footage from my wrist, which is always fun. Right, time for a bit of sightseeing, starting at the Circus, a famous circle of terraced Georgian mansions. Then on to the even more famous Royal Crescent, famous as one of the finest examples of Georgian architecture in the UK and used in many films and TV programmes. However, I'm here to see something very specific because in the 1970s, Miss Annabel Wellesley Coley, resident of number 22 and a woman after my own heart, painted her front door yellow instead of the traditional white. She had to fight 2 enforcement orders from Bath City Council and defend herself at a public inquiry before it was finally declared that the door could remain yellow, which is just as you see it today. Absolutely perfect. On my way back to the city centre, I stumbled on the Georgian Garden, which is a recreation of an 18th century town garden and a peaceful little pocket of a place. I was the only one here. It was lovely. I picked up a sandwich and I ate it in Parade Gardens. It was mild enough to comfortably eat outside. And I then had a little walk around and a look at the bursting at the sides River Avon. You'll see in a minute when I poke the camera over the railings and look back that the river's actually burst its banks. I am back at the car after an absolutely brilliant day mooching about Bath on my own and just doing my own thing. It's so rare to get the opportunity to just flit about with no agenda and just do whatever I feel like doing. So it was lovely. Sorry about this terrible angle. I don't have the setup in Dan's car. I was going to give you a little bit of a flash of what I picked up whilst I was out and about. I'm back in the car at the university. I've been on the bus, I've picked up the car, I've been to Lidl's, and now I'm back here. Lydia will finish in about an hour, maybe just under. So my intention is to just rest here and start my new book. I'm gonna, not new as in one I bought today, but my next book, which is going to be this one. I've been really looking forward to starting it. Ooh. Tuesday Evenings with the Coped & Craft Resistance by Kate Sully. She's an Australian author and it was sent to me by a viewer from Australia, very kindly. I'm not sure how available it is outside of Australia. I haven't checked. So apologies if you go to look it up and you find you can't get it, and I'm just very lucky. So thank you, Tiffany, for sending me this. I've been really looking forward to starting it. I'm going to do a bit of a reading update later in this vlog. So I've had a lovely little trundle round. Let's start with the 2 books that I bought, because the rest is all just silly little things. So I knew that I wanted to visit. Oh, I should say as well, when I was in the sort of touristy shop, picking up a postcard for Lilia for her scrapbook. She asked me to pick her up a couple of postcards for her scrapbook. Should we just move that out of shot? That's the strap for my camera. Someone came up and said hello. So hello Emma and hello Florence. I'm pretty sure your name was Emma. But it was many hours ago now, and now I'm questioning that. I'm pretty sure it was Emma. It was definitely Florence. So they come up and said hello to me. So it was so lovely to just bump randomly into people who watch the vlogs in the middle of Bath. It was just really, really nice. So thank you for saying hello. And she recommended both Toppings and Mr. B's, and I went to both. And I went to Waterstones as well. So I started at Toppings, which I adored. I loved it. They had the most wonderful classical music playing. The atmosphere was lovely. Huge range of books, really well set out. And I really had a lovely time browsing around. I had it in my mind today, because I knew I would be visiting bookshops, to pick up maybe a couple more books that have been translated from the original Japanese, because I find that I think I've read at least 3 books. I made a note before I came out, by Japanese authors that were then translated, that have really, really stuck with me. There's something about the way those books are translated that I really love. So The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa was one. The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. And of course, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I loved all of those, and I actually had it in mind to maybe look for one of I need to look at it in order to say it right. Sayaka Murata's other books, because I know she's got at least 2 other ones. I didn't see those, but because I was in that area, I found a couple of others. So in Toppings, I picked up All the Lovers in the Night by Miko Kawakami. And it says, National Book Critics Circle Award finalist 2022. Fuyuko Iri is a freelance proofreader in her 30s, living alone and unable to form meaningful relationships. She has little contact with anyone other than her colleagues, but a chance encounter with a man named Mitsuka awakens something new in her. As Fuyuko, I'm sorry if I'm saying the names wrong, starts to see the world in a different light, painful memories from her past begin to resurface. Fuyuko needs to be loved, to be heard and to be seen, but living in a small world of her own making, will she find the strength to bring down the walls that surround her? Pulsing and poetic, modern and shocking, this is an unforgettable novel from Japan's most exciting writer. It sounds brilliant. I'm not sure if this is signed as well. There's a sticker in it. I'm sure it would say on the front, wouldn't it, if it was signed? I didn't spot it until I was looking at it afterwards. Be exciting if it was, wouldn't it? So that was my first purchase. And that is 222 pages, which feels not overwhelming. Very pleased with that. And I saw in Toppings, but thought, no, I'll save it. I'll buy it in the next bookshop. I'll buy it in Mr. B's. But I couldn't find it in Mr. B's. It wasn't there. They didn't have the same sort of amount of selection as that type of books. So I didn't end up buying anything in Mr. B's, unfortunately. But I did go to Waterstones and pick up the book that I'd seen in Toppings. You following? And that was this one. The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa. Oh, it's such a beautiful cover. It's all glittery. This sounds a bit magical. Natsuki Books was a tiny second-hand bookshop on the edge of town. Inside, towering shelves reached the ceiling. Everyone crammed full of wonderful books. Rintaro Natsuki loved this space that his grandfather had created. He spent many happy hours there reading whatever he liked. It was the perfect refuge for a boy who tended to be something of a recluse. After the death of his grandfather, Rintaro is devastated and alone. It seems he will have to close the shop. Then a talking tabby cat called Tiger appears and asks Rintaro for help. The cat needs a book lover to join him on a mission. This odd couple will go on 3 magical adventures to save books from people who have imprisoned, mistreated and betrayed them. Finally, there is one last rescue that Rintaro must attempt alone.
The Cat Who Saved Books is a heartwarming story about finding courage, caring for others, and the tremendous power of books. How gorgeous does that sound? And this is about the same. It's about 215 pages. So those were my two purchases. I was looking out for the... what's it called? The Welcome to the Huyanam Dong Bookshop. But I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in Mr. B's. I couldn't find it in Waterstones. They did have it in Toppings, but I'd already bought one. And I kind of wanted to support all three of those bookshops. So I wasn't able to do that, but I could support two of them. So I'm very pleased with those and very happy to have them in my possession. Then a couple of silly purchases. I had to go and buy myself some sunglasses. So I'll show you. It was so sunny walking about and I didn't have any with me. I came unprepared, so I had to go and buy some £1 sunglasses from Primark. They're black. I don't normally buy black, but they didn't have them in brown. I prefer brown because otherwise I feel like I look a bit like I'm Secret Service. Right. Just, they're steaming up. Anyway, I've got those just in case it's sunny on the way home. And then I popped into Tiger and I treated my tree of requirement. I have a little tree that goes up for various holidays and festivals throughout the year. It's not a tree, it's like a white twig thing that you can put ornaments on. So I got two of these from Tiger. Slightly angry looking chicks for Easter. In the kind of mock glass 1950s, oh, shedding glitter everywhere type thing. So those are my purchases. I also got a little thing for Phoebe. I always get her something from our little trips away, Lilia and I. I just got her from TK Maxx some Dr. Pawpaw hot pink balm for lips, cheeks and cosmetic finishing with a hint of tint. She'll love that. She loves her makeup. And that's that. So, oh goodness me, I've been talking for ages. So I'm going to shut up and catch up with you later. I might catch up with you tomorrow because by the time I finish this, Lilia and I get home, it'll be quite late and I will have been driving for hours. So I'll probably catch up with you tomorrow. So thanks for coming with me to Bath. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll have a little book chat shortly.
Hello, it is Saturday and as promised I am back to have a little book chat with you. I'm sitting in a really awkward position. Also, I think I've just disturbed the cat. We don't have a cat. I feel like I need to explain this every time I mention the cat. I'm just going to take a video of her so you can see what I can see as I'm talking to you. Here she is. Hey Mia. Hello beautiful girl. And all the writing on my hand, reminding myself. It says list, to remind me to look at my list of things that I need to be reminded of. Hey. Oh, she's tired. That's her favourite blanket. Anyway, she's not ours, she's next door's. She comes in every day and just sleeps. They have a very energetic and gorgeous cockapoo and Mia is a very old lady. We don't know how old she is, we think she's about 15. And she just needs a bit of peace and quiet. I know how she feels, a bit like me. Just gonna bring this down a bit. Let's have a little chat about reading. So I just wanted to give you an update really. I'm gonna have to get my story graph up. I also can't remember where I was up to telling you about. I finished listening to The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. I thoroughly enjoyed that in the end. I wasn't sure at certain parts throughout, but I did really enjoy it. I think maybe it was just too long. It was a good 12 hours, the audiobook. And I think maybe it just coasted a little bit in parts. But on the whole, I really liked the magical element of it. I loved the it was told in 2 different periods of time. And I really enjoyed that. And then I listened to The Wild Water Women by Ellie Wood. I really like listening to things about open water swimming because it's something that I've been a long time saying I'm going to get into. I've got all the stuff I need, just not quite the time and the courage to take the first dip, but with a local group, not my own, of course. So I've been listening to quite a few fictions and things about, and podcasts about wild water swimming. And this was just a very light and fluffy listen. I gave it 3 stars, and I'm thinking that might be a bit high. It wasn't a bad book. I enjoyed it whilst I was listening to it. It was just, yeah, it didn't leave me with anything. It was actually, I will say though, it was very much a love story to the Lake District and that area of the world. And for that, it deserves those 3 stars, I would say. If you're from that area or you love that area, you'll recognise a lot of the places mentioned. I then was reading The Hounds of Morrigan, which is this book here that I have had on my bookshelf since I was probably my youngest daughter's age, which is 13, maybe even younger. It's by Pat O'Shea, who is an Irish author, and it was first published in 1985. Yeah, and I have had this on my shelf forever. It's come with me everywhere I've moved to. It feels like it's been part of the background of everywhere I've ever been. I don't think I'll ever not have this on my shelf because it just, for some reason, has been with me my whole life. I don't know what the reason for that is. I have now read it and I'm really pleased that I did. It wasn't my kind of thing at all. It might have been when I was 13. I can't remember. Why is there a bit of paper in here? Oh, I made notes. I made notes and put it in so I wouldn't forget. I put like a magical fairy tale and a cross between Lord of the Rings, The Hunger Games and Dora the Explorer. That's so true. That's a really good explanation past me. The characters are incredible and numerous. Yeah, I found it hard to keep up with all of the characters. They meet so many different characters along the way. And the world building is fantastic. And there is a lot of Gaelic language and mythology, is that the right word? Like woven throughout it, and I thought that was really lovely too. I was surprised by the cover. Now I've read it, the cover doesn't seem to fit what goes on in the story. So you've got the 3 witches, one of which is very beautiful, and the other 2, well, this one isn't really beautiful, it's kind of a magical mask, and then the 2 children here. But you don't and you've got the hounds, but you don't have, like, one of the main characters in it is a fox called Kuru. Yeah, Kuru. And I'm surprised that he's not on the cover. But then, you know, I'm talking about a book that's like 30, 40 years old. So, yeah, maybe I'm overthinking the cover art. But I love the book. I struggled a little bit in places. I loved other places. I found myself skim reading parts and really engrossed in other parts. I'm glad this story is now part of me. And I'm glad I read it. I gave it 4 stars, by the way. It's almost impossible for me to rate it, but I gave it 4 stars. And I thought they were very well deserved. And I've got a little tab in here. Okay. There were a few bits. There were a couple of little bits that I put little tabs in to remind myself because either made me laugh or made me think. And one of the things was someone has said something and it says, Melody said coldly and with a look that could fillet a shark. I liked that, a sharp look that could fillet a shark. And the other one that I put a tab in, where is it? Oh, here we go. There's a battle going on and they've sort of created a form of army with soldiers, but they're not real. And it said, in a way they all look the same, in the way they were all replicas of each other without the individual spark of creaturehood that shows uniquely in every human being. I just really liked that, the individual spark of creaturehood that shows uniquely in every human being. I just really liked that turn of phrase. So that was The Hounds of the Morrigan. I then read, because I had been desperately wanting to read this for so long, The Cinnamon Snail by Rosemary Whittaker. I believe she has written a fair few books called, I think they're called the Year Away series, about characters who spend time living away in countries that are not their own. And I think it's based on her own knowledge of the countries that she's lived in her life. And this one is set mainly in Copenhagen and London. And I really loved it. It was written quite some time ago in the early 2000s, and the only reason I wanted it, Dan got it for me for Christmas, was because it was set in Copenhagen. It's Denmark is a place I have weird love for. Well, not weird, I've been there and now I know why, but I loved it before I'd even been. I'd read a lot of books about it and fictional books set in that place, and I was just desperate to go, and we went in 2018 and I just fell in love with it. And we had planned to go back, but obviously there was a sort of worldwide event which stopped that. And we were going to go in February, Dan and I, this year, to Copenhagen for a weekend or a couple of days. And that didn't happen because of all the auditions we've been going about for with our eldest daughters. But we will do it this year. So I wanted to read this just to get that Copenhagen feeling in my bones, and it did just that. It's a very light, very easy romance. It's slightly unusual in that the main character, whose name is Kate, she follows her boyfriend who's broken up with her and who's Danish and has gone back to Denmark. She follows him to sort of stalk him and try to get him back, which is quite an unusual premise, that he's clearly not interested in her anymore and he's got a new girlfriend. And she wants to go and sort of win him back. And it's what happens to her when she moves to Copenhagen and sets up there with the sole intention of winning back her boyfriend, and then sort of what happens to her as she adjusts to her new life. So I enjoyed this thoroughly. I read it really quickly, and yeah, haven't given it a star rating yet. I have to percolate on books before I issue star ratings. And then I moved on to Kate Solly's Tuesday Evenings with the Copton Craft Resistance. This was sent to me, as I said earlier in the vlog, by a lovely viewer, Tiffany. Thank you, Tiffany. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm about 40 pages in, which I read yesterday in the car whilst I was waiting for Lilia, and I like the characters. It's kind of funny. I can relate to some of it. Because it's set in Australia, there are terms and the names of shops and things I have to look up, which I love. I think as Brits, we're quite used to doing that because we have so much content that comes to us from, say, the US and so on. And so I know that the vast majority of my viewership are in the UK, which is lovely. And they're all about the same age as me. And then I'm very lucky to have the other sort of 50% of my viewership made up of Europe, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and all kinds of different places, Japan, and amazing places that I can't believe there are people like watching. It's just really, really lovely. But I know the vast majority of you, like me, are in the UK, so you will know what I mean when I say we understand things from watching content that we get over here. I think we probably pick up cultural references and things from those, so I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I really like the fact that this is Australian, and it reminds me a little bit of when I was younger, growing up and watching like Neighbours and Home and Away, and not always totally fully understanding some of the references and, you know, filling in the gaps, and I really like that. The characters are fun. I recognise myself in a couple of them, and the love of crochet that is so far in the first 40 pages of this book, and the way they talk about patterns and works in progress and learning and finding other people who do it is so spot on. I love it. So I know that I'm going to look forward to picking this up every day to have a read through. I'm going to speed up a bit because I've been talking too long and I don't want this vlog to get too long. I'm really sorry. Finally, I just wanted to mention David Copperfield. This is my very old copy of David Copperfield. In fact, it's not my very old copy of David Copperfield. Well, it is now. It's my mum's. So she got this in 1963, so she would have been 15. She was born in 1948. There she is. She's written her name when she was still a Moncrief, before she was married. And look at here. To borrow is human, to return is divine. I love that. Her writing is much more neat when she was 15 than mine is even now, I think. So I've been reading along kind of and keeping track of where I am in the audiobook, because I'm listening to this on Audible. I guess it's a reread, but I read David Copperfield in my teenage years, and I am discovering lately that listening to them on audiobook just brings them to life in a whole new different way. I tend to listen to a lot more. And this one's narrated by Richard Armitage on Audible, and he is doing the most fantastic job. Every single character has a different voice. We've had an array of brilliant accents for many of them. The way he voices Mr. and Miss Murdstone, who are like the evil characters at the beginning in his childhood, is just perfection. It's wonderful the way he does it. It's a very, very long book. It's about 36 hours, 38 hours. Probably the longest audiobook I've ever listened to. I think the longest one until this point has been Black and British by David Olusoga. That was about 24 hours. But this is much, much longer. So, but I'm loving every minute of it. And in fact, I'm going to listen to it now whilst I'm doing a bit of knitting and chilling out, because I'm all on my own in the house. Lilia's at work. Dan and Phoebe are at the football. We're watching Arsenal versus Man U at the Emirates Stadium, and I'm just going to run the Hoover around and enjoy a bit of peace and quiet. And that's what I'm going to let you do now as well. I will say goodbye, and I hope you've enjoyed this little bookish chat and bookish vlog and little trip to Bath. Thank you for watching. I know it's all nonsense. I know it's just me gabbling on about a very ordinary life. And I know that I like watching that because it's something that connects me with others, whether they're in my country or across the world. Connecting and finding people who enjoy the same things, like walking or reading or knitting or crocheting or just whatever. Watching YouTube is just a great pleasure, something I have never lost the thrill of in all the time I've been doing YouTube. And yeah, I love it, and I do realise it's all nonsense, but I hope you've enjoyed this particular half hour of nonsense, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.